This is Josh Stever with Asbestos Worker, and you are listening to the Brutally Delicious Podcast. Thank you.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Usually I have my partner, but she had something come up, so you've got just me today.
Yeah, no, I normally would have the other guys behind me here too, but I just started a third shift job, so I just woke up. So you got me today.
I worked third shift for 11 years. Horrible.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I worked third shift for like 11 years. It takes its toll on you for sure.
Yeah, I'm doing it through school. I'm trying to get a degree, and third shift will allow me to see my kids still and go to school. So
Right.
I'd rather have my kids' time and have to give up a little of my own time. So
I agree with you. It just takes a toll on your body after a while for sure.
yes, it does.
Anyway, let's talk about Asbestos Worker.
Sounds good.
So for those not familiar, can you give us the 2-sentence elevator pitch?
We are a very socially conscious noise rock band.
Okay, fair enough.
That's about the best way to explain it, I think.
Okay, when you say socially conscious, are you tackling like today's issues?
I do a lot of today's issues, and I use music as kind of a form of therapy. So I oftentimes like writing about things that might seem sort of mundane, but you know, still have a tendency of creeping into people's lives and driving it in a certain direction.
Okay, so your new record, or This Is Hell, is
The Separation.
Oh, and This Is Hell is the single?
Yes.
Yep. Sorry, I got it backwards. But The Separation, is there a message or something you want your fans to take away from after listening to The Separation, or even the single This Is Hell?
Well, the main thing I like is to find some relatability. You know, being that I use music as kind of a therapy session, I also listen to music in that same sort of way. You know, and I'm drawn to music that ties me to it emotionally.
Right.
So ultimately, you know, the subject matter is really dark, but I tend to try to end my songs with, you know, this is a bleak outlook currently, but there's always hope. You know, it's not a complete nihilistic view of everything sucks, so let's just give up. These things suck really bad, but if we could get through them, the other side's a hell of a lot better.
And I think based on our current climate, United States and the world in general, that's needed, right? Because we're all in this sort of fucked up limbo state, I guess is the best way to put it. So you need some sort of hope on the end. And I think you hit it right on the head when you said music is therapy. It's super cathartic, right?
Yep. And ultimately, when this band really took shape, you know, when I first started playing music, I got caught up in some of the things that a lot of musicians do in making sure that I wrote songs that impressed other musicians, right? And when I stopped caring so much about the technicality and what I was writing, and just wrote pieces that had an emotional response just from the music itself, and then you just find a lyric content that finds that emotion, that's when I really came into my spot. You know, that's when I really started writing songs that I felt were worth sharing.
And I think the way you just mentioned doing it makes it more organic and real, possibly.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you feel a sense of responsibility then in writing your lyrics for your fans to listen to, or are you just kind of putting it out there and hoping they connect?
I personally, I kind of just put it out there. I have a tendency of believing that with the amount of people on this planet, you know, the things that I feel, I guarantee there's people out there that probably match my my fervor, what my belief system. And so I put out what I feel out there, and I let other people take what they want out of it. I interpret songs from other people sometimes, maybe not necessarily the way they intended it, but I took something off of it, and I like to hold that.
You ever feel too vulnerable, or you put too much of yourself into a song?
Oh, absolutely. The first song on this album actually is probably one that I'm not sure if we'll ever play it live, just because when I wrote the song, I can listen to that song and I can put myself right back into the situation that created that mindset, and it's difficult, and it's difficult to know that my lyrics aren't very metaphorical. They're pretty straightforward. So what's on my mind, everybody knows exactly what it is. So that does create a sense of vulnerability. Yes.
Gotcha. So I know the name of the band is Asbestos Worker, but I also see that you are asbestos workers. So tell me what that even is. Two of us. I don't even know what that is.
Me and my drummer are part of the local Heat and Frost Insulators and Asbestos Workers. So basically, I'm a mechanical insulator. So I did a lot of powerhouse and refinery work. So there you insulate hot and cold pipe. In a commercial building, we do all the air conditioning and the plumbing. So back in the day, asbestos, the insulation, you can put a blowtorch to it and it won't burn. There is not a better insulating product out there. The only problem is unfortunately it kills the people that apply it and create it. So my trade used to be the ones that put it on. We'd put it on the walls, we'd put it on the ships and the dockyards. And so when I was trying to come up with a name, I'm 44, but I am a fan of death metal and things like that. But sometimes those band titles get to be what I consider kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
as a grown man. So I wanted to come up with something that sounded kind of cool and dark and ominous, but not super cheesy.
But I think it's really metal anyway, what you're doing, right? I mean, it's...
Yes, absolutely. Yep. I tell people, I kind of classify it as noise rock, but I mean, I love grindcore. I love death metal. I love just straight punk, and it all finds a way to leach itself into my music. I love surf rock,
Right. But I think, I think just your career path is super metal in a way too, bringing that sort of dangerous aspect to, the music as well. And that's got to leach into it too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yep. And me and Jason, I actually met him as an apprentice, when I was building my home studio, I picked his brain because he actually has a degree in audio engineering.
Oh, okay.
And so he helped me build my studio. And then when it came time to start performing live, I asked if he wanted to join in. And he's part of another band, and their other bass player joined us. So
nice. I saw you did the whole thing in a week.
Yes. Yep. About 6 days. So the title of The Separation came because my wife unfortunately left me at the end of 2019. And then, as we all know, the world shut down in 2020. And so the separation is kind of a dual purpose. Once she left me and we separated, and then once the lockdown happened, I kind of separated myself from the world, and I pretty much sat in my basement for the next 2 years. Wow. And then about two months or so, I couldn't even pick up my instrument because of obvious emotional stress.
Right.
And it was like when I picked up that guitar, boy, it was like everything was just there, just waiting. I picked
you were
it up
able to channel that emotion in that.
Yeah, I mean, all those songs, I wrote them in about 3 days. And it's like I'd come up with the initial riff, and there wasn't even a thought about what I should do next. They almost wrote themselves. I tell people it's kind of a gross way to say it, but I just I picked up my guitar and I puked it all out. It just came out all in one shot. Like, here it is.
Was this post-pandemic?
This was pre-pandemic, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So my last LP I released in January of 2020, and two of the songs that are included on that album I wrote as part of the batch of songs that are on this album.
Nice. So it was all so during the downtime, or the forced downtime, or whatever we had, were you able to continue writing?
Oh yeah. Yep. I at this point in time now, we've got a couple of splits we're working on, and we've got enough material for a whole another album already that I've pretty much had waiting until the record was finished. We even turned our masters in a little over a year ago, and we just got them this July because of the pressing plan issues
Sure.
and the logistical issues and all that. So, this record's been done and ready to go for almost 2 years already.
Wow.
So,
I often say, or we often say on the show, we have conversations that I think the pandemic, everybody being locked down, they've all sort of honed their craft and really focused. That now in 22 and even further, we're going to see like this explosion or like a renaissance of the arts, not just music, everything, right?
I sure hope so, boy, because I mean, it took a toll on everybody. You
Yeah.
can see it. And now that shows are going back again, you can see how badly people want it.
Yeah. And, just in my perspective, some of the records or some of the bands I'm fans of have released records that are like the best they've done in their career. And it's amazing.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I often tell people that I think a lot of the great artists did it under duress, we'll say. A lot of the great artists, their art comes from a source of trying to release pain.
Right.
And the last couple of years has been a really good source material for anybody with an artistic mindset,
Yeah.
Yeah, not just the government and then the health issues. It's just the whole cauldron's kind of bubbling over at this point. So,
Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting you said that, you know, uh, people are taking the time to put all that emotion from the pandemic into it and from that nonsense and they're reemerging with like stuff that not only is able to connect because it's from what we all went through together, but it's
right.
top of the line because you've had so much time to hone those riffs and work out those parts. And
Well, and I almost feel like it's almost like our generation 60s, with the amount you see being put out on the airwaves. It's so prevalent and forceful nowadays that you almost can't help but feel like something is coming behind this.
and I agree with you to a point, but I wish, or I sometimes wish, that some of these bands, bigger bands, would take on the issues of the time and rather instead of just writing fluff. Does that make sense? Because then you would really have like the Joni Mitchells and the people that are taking on the establishment or the fucked upness around them, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. And maybe I'm a little lucky. I tend to gravitate towards those. Like I said, I'm a big fan of grindcore. Obviously the punk rock has had a long history of tackling the issues, but it's definitely nice when you see those bigger bands do it, and you wish they would do it more.
Right, because their platform is so
they
much.
got a stake in the world just as much as we do, even if they've got more fans and more money or whatever. I mean, they still have a stake in it. So
right, and then their platform gets it out to a bigger audience or a greater. Yeah, I know, it's interesting how. So sometimes I wish that would happen because that would be really nice. But I think you're right about the '60s analogy because I think we're on that cusp or that precipice of music or just arts.
They say the world changes when people start finally getting uncomfortable and having to being forced out of their comfort zone. And I think it's getting there. I mean,
I don't think you can get much more uncomfortable than now.
Right. I mean, the division of the classes in this country, there's a whole lot of us that are in the very uncomfortable pile.
Right. So sort of like a noise rock Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
The working class metal.
And that's, we've had that moniker applied to us a few times, and I welcome it with open arms. You know what I mean? Guys like Woody Guthrie, I mean, those are idols of mine. Right. I mean, him especially. You talk about the time that he did it, and again, the kind of fervor that was against people like him in this country with the Red Scare and all that. It mirrors some of our own political organizations' views on the others, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And so.
And
if I can even get close to what he accomplished, I could die a successful man.
and I think metal has always been or had that underlying theme of challenging the not only authority but the shit
Yep.
that doesn't make sense and that sort of thing, right? I mean, that's sort of inherent in the whole metalhead attitude.
Well, and I think it comes right from the very roots. I mean, in my opinion, the first metal band out there was Black Sabbath.
Sure.
And you look at what they thought of Black Sabbath in the 70s, they were devil worshiping evil bastards. But then you listen to the lyrics.
Right.
And man, those lyrics are nothing but peace, love, harmony.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, sure, War Pig sounds sounds deep, dark, and evil, even the title. But yeah, you're 100% right.
Right.
With the lyrics, and it's not.
And where I think it is as metalheads, we have kind of a darker sense of humor, darker tastes in artistic value. And so I think a lot of us are willing to accept that the things that we're talking about are coming from a really dark place. And we don't need to pretend or sugarcoat it.
No.
This is it. This is the real ugly truth, buddy. Take it,
So this has nothing to do with Asbestos Worker, but we're off on a tangent here, and I hope you don't mind.
No.
What do you think caused like somebody to listen to the first 3 notes of that first Sabbath album, right? It's the Black Sabbath. It's that song. What do you think caused someone to listen to those first 3 notes and automatically determine it's evil and shit? I mean, I know I've heard about the tritones and all that other stuff, and I put that aside, but like just the average person, why is that automatically associated?
I mean, if you think about it, I guess Sabbath started off as a blues band. You know what I mean? And if you really look at a lot of metal music, the blues scales and the minor scales are so prevalent. And personally, I mean, you look into the history of the blues, and it's a very almost an indigenous kind of music. Very and tribal. And I mean, those types, if you look at the various tribes, their musics are very visceral. They're things that speak to a deeper purpose in us.
Right.
And so when that happened, and again, you take the compounding frustration, all the people that were introduced to that album, I mean, you start that first song with just that opening.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, and just the dark ominous. And then, like I said, we tend to, we have a negative bias in this world as human beings, and so when you hear that in an era when there's a lot of frustration, a lot of darkness, a lot of uncertainty, it immediately it's almost like a soundtrack.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think it was. It was just a soundtrack to a dystopian present.
Those couple notes make you feel something for sure, but I don't necessarily know that it, dark and evil, but they make you feel something even before Ozzy comes in, right? You're feeling it.
Yep. Well, and even just the subject matter, the fact of it being a dream and meeting death and the devil. I mean, it's really cool.
Sorry, I went off on a total tangent there, but
that's all right. I do it all the time.
We just like to chat here and see what ends up happening. But so are you going to be able to take Asbestos Worker on the road? I know with your schedule and with the.
Yep. The plan is definitely do that. So, me starting off as a one-man band, I did this when I started. I wanted to be a regular band, but I was impatient and I didn't have the personnel at the time. But now that I got it, it's fun and cathartic to play music on a record. But as a musician that does this as a form of mental release, it's never the same unless you're on stage. So now that I got a band behind me, I mean, shows is all I'm looking forward to. So over the winter, we plan on hitting some of the areas around the Midwest just to kind of get out there. And then we're hoping to get out to the Pacific Northwest next spring, out to Oregon and Washington.
Okay. So I'm going to go back for a second. You just mentioned like on stage as being it, but how does it make you feel when like everything you worked on, all the time you spent writing songs and mixing and mastering, comes to life on stage in front of a crowd? Is that the ultimate?
That's it. I mean, that's to me, it's better than sex. The only thing that beats it is my kids. I mean, there's no experience out there where, you know, I, like a lot of people, I have some self-esteem issues, and I have I feel awkward half the time. But when I get on stage in front of people, it's one of those only times where I'm around other human beings where I don't feel awkward. Like I get up there and it's just like, this is where I need to be. This is it.
And I think if you talk to any metalhead, the metal community is like that, right? I mean, you could go around the world and drop in on a show and you've already met these people. It's like you met these people 100 million times before. You automatically have something to bond over, whether it's the riff or whatever. But
I think that's why I feel drawn to them. Is the reason I went to those types of music is because I felt so awkward. And so I gravitated towards the other weirdos in school.
Right. There's that whole community, but you don't find that community in pop music or in country music. No. It's really specific to metal.
And the community aspect of it. I mean, the bands in the Twin Cities, the bands that we associate with around the country, it's a real community atmosphere.
Absolutely. It's great.
Yes. It's nice to see cooperation instead of competition, like you see in the big leagues.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing like it. So I've run out of my questions. And before we come to a conclusion, I've got a little game I want to play, if you don't mind.
Okay.
We use it just for Instagram shorts, and they do really well as teasers.
Okay.
So it's a little fucked up. Just go with it. All I need you to do is tell me what's happening in the picture and what's going to happen in the next frame.
Okay.
All right. Let me just share it with you real quick. Share. You should see that.
Well, it looks like he's trying to make sushi with hot Cheetos. And in the next frame, I think the whole work starts on fire.
Nice. But what do you think's in the book then?
Oh, that's a book? Oh, to me, it looks like a pile of spicy Cheetos that he's holding in his hand.
That is beautiful. I've been doing this one every time we record, we use the same picture throughout all the interviews. So your number like 5 or 6 today, and I've gotten all kinds of different perspectives, but not that one. So I appreciate it.
Well, good.
Somebody told me it looked
new perspective.
Yeah, most of the time a couple times I've heard that it's Buddha being prepared to be enlightened.
Oh, nice.
But I like the cheese doodles better, to be honest with you. So if fans want to...
My oldest daughter is a fanatic of spicy Cheetos. So anytime I even see anything that color, my head just goes right to spicy Cheetos.
So for those not familiar with Asbestos Worker, are you guys on all social media platforms and that sort of thing?
Yes, we are on Instagram and Facebook. Boy, what else is there?
There's too many, actually. I've been talking to bands today about Twitch.
We're mainly Instagram and Facebook. We'll put that out there. Those are the main ones that I hit.
And you stay pretty active?
Oh, God, yeah. Yep. I do my best to post constant contact, especially on my Facebook page, because you can post links and stuff. I'm very active in, anybody that likes me, I try to push all the bands that I like. Right. As well. And so I try to do a lot of promotion of the people that I'd like to play shows with,
right?
Or just bands that I like in general. So
that's good. I mean, that goes back to that whole metal community, right? It's all just.
Yep. And I mean, that's how a lot of these bands got started is, somebody they knew, I like to use Nirvana. I mean, Kurt Cobain, he hated that fame, and I think one thing he did with it really well is if it wasn't for Nirvana, this band I got right here, the Jesus Lizard, I'd have never heard of them.
Right.
Because he always wanted people to listen to the shit that he listened to,
Right.
And because he was famous and I think he didn't like it, he liked to push other people's. And so, I love that aspect of this type of music.
Thank you for taking the time, my friend. I hope that wasn't too bad.
No, that was awesome. Thank you very much. I think these things are pretty fun.
I know I went off on a tangent, but I try not to glance at my bullet points much and just see where the conversation goes.
Yeah, I personally, most of my conversations are tangents. I have a bit of the ADD, so I go off in various directions all the time.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time. Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Good luck with the record, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
All right, be well.
You too. Bye.